hamaja sahur diwan bala emme karya devena gotaka hame damwegen gota visnungen golfa aneka mihara bes midenne resort tak midenne program go bayruwan beenuma farata ka fursat ulwale beenu am he ko me bayruno jena hama muddatu go terega nimma fani mun mihar se burti vidalo he panza sahara me devena go public community hisabi ka ekam ekumhuni takun kina tawani ekumhun eka kumhunya no feddi ebes mi ko ngato usul kam dati no tanu dati kam awon kanne ga awon ngani hama ga mas no feddi kan nehma sarkaru mi har mi di har go tere go faddi mtdc fadda hisabi kam mi har hisabi ka e buruni ma hane kane burgo hisabi kam hasage ta bar de sutade hisabe de bakro bas no ike e gannan mi ko ne mi har ane kolon erarhum amdani sarkara libingen da member go wadanno to ma kuda ngato rent was mama kuda rent ga difam yonani ma kuda rent ga ma daggote ka mi digembe sama no hingage wolani hemima danno mi wole cheki komme kame bes kurevena gotaka no kurevena gotaka visnanya na algon me sustainable ko algon me rajye tourism yes adehen daire kam singana kam manya em asak kura farata ka sekshi gum faida libinje ane kolon e faida ga teren profit tax nagawa mi dakkane ngato em mi ademme ke puri ko tibe hon ti kure biswalta waram hunu kama ke corporate tax ge nuna mi neguma be hegot em mi denne e gotta faida libigen ama e faida $10 million faida gotuga libunu kum hunya kum ya emum 100% ko man e 100% awa war sarkar dakka e dare dani rayitung amdiri ulumata ka budget libe faasa gotuga hema mi huriya kandatta ka visnage mi husala meti ei mi denne gotu husala wasa obaki mi denne hen mi har ten mi ane gota tiswal jawab kura mi detere mes hanghas dor mem mati den husala mi ke mi guruat lira erada yati rent fix kure enu then open end to go to galira midani vihi ha 26 ha 15 ha 16 ha arara ngedie e kuye kan ngeto agon danwane e komen kurevene ngeto lahiken nu ne kan kura kasen da agon ha wara kerigen danwana e rajye guri ha rara hisaba jasagen agon mon rajye ge resort tak nga ka annana mi hunna nu liben ngeto ema e hisaba die du ha kon hisaba jasane ko mi hara heden gota bisna mi gendane jane kolon e kuli kandalani es komme diha harun en haru ema eki issue en onan to me haru fansa sahara certificate go registry li fa dinumaki bes masale no hema registry kurebe miha registry miha gana men no balami enek faratun gawma liben ngi check hodan amna ta ena e kurama sakatu kun awono mul mujtama libe faada ko bisna me hemi me gota komme mihe ko bes invest kura farata bes yagin ko onno usulaku kan koggen kan develop kurebe ha mege terega beer mi hunna hulwale for fursatu es wara bodu nemima mi haru mi denne hen kandatta kuriya genda visnairo algon men overall muli gawmuge development of visnairo agona masakete kimi koren ha mehme mi haru mi wani muli algon men mi haru ha jassa eddu jihade wadati muli country rate in vesda nemima e country rate in mi hatana e hadafa kenne muli gawmuge country rate in hema agona mi haru country rate in ves ayrat korbe mi haru ge june mas nimuge korin agon me rajye mi den country rate na gos imene heme ege sobun den agon men ala mi fi olta ke siturang igen dana agon me so do battam kur mataka hadi mi hatana kure fene kamane ema mi haro mene ikama be gotu jade wadati haddo singapore wada agon mi di har sunu fashan kuram ngama sakete ke mi har mani mi den hisaba gen defa jihad ya be gotu hombekat agon mi standard po ya den anaka mi defarata ka wah modisa wah ka dekhe mu gosa agon mi har me decide kuri farata ka jihad dal de
by far kura swale rating ke coach to yes ke marks mi imtihano marks dekho ta mi gawma ka de marks sengi mark hoye agito emme rangal mark ko mi liben triple a de rajya triple a liben to nuriben to swal kure swale ke alkhne de ek swal jawab danna adi agon mi rating hodan vege mi hamasa kete kore fani agon mi wah dakko mi gendani S&P Standard Poor mi JP Morgan
If you proceed with the restoration work, the repair work, then there's a chance that extremists will incite to violence. But of course, if you don't do the repair work, you have a chance of a real tragedy, that people coming up to the mount, innocent people, pilgrims, tourists, they will be hurt by the collapse of the ramp.
Neither side seems willing to back down. Israeli police had tried to bar all males under the age of 45 from entering the mosque compound, leaving hundreds outside the city walls to say their prayers. We came to pray as Muslims, as Jerusalemites. We came to practice our right to worship, says Yusuf Mukammer, but our right has been denied. Later, police arrested him as he tried to address the crowd. Scuffles ensued, and then pandemonium broke out. Similar scenes played out around the old city. This may not be the third Palestinian intifada some were predicting. There were wounded on both sides, but no fatalities. But it's a reminder nonetheless that the conflict here is never far from the surface, and that what might seem like innocuous acts can have unforeseen consequences.
Despite Friday's troubles, Israeli officials say they may well resume renovation work in the old city, pending a review. Ben Wiedemann, CNN, Jerusalem.
Meanwhile, world leaders are reacting to a new power-sharing deal between Palestinian rivals Hamas and Fatah with cautious optimism. It's hoped the Mecca Accord will end months of factional violence by creating a Palestinian unity government. The agreement says the new government pledges to respect previous deals, but it makes no reference to recognizing Israel or renouncing violence. Hamas is calling on the international community to accept the deal and lift crippling economic sanctions. To the war in Iraq now, a new report from the US Defense Department suggests the Pentagon used questionable pre-war intelligence in an effort to link Saddam Hussein to al-Qaeda. That link was part of the Bush administration's rationale for the war. With more on the report, here's White House correspondent Brian Todd.
It's become part of pre-war intelligence lore. The allegation that 9/11 hijacker Mohammed Atta met with an Iraqi intelligence officer 5 months before Atta crashed a plane into the World Trade Center. A misguided belief that, according to a new report, bolstered claims by some in the Pentagon, like the office of Donald Rumsfeld's then deputy Douglas Feith, that Saddam Hussein's government had solid ties with al-Qaeda and war in Iraq was justified.
The intelligence community thought that that was not a verifiable meeting, and subsequently has proven that it did not occur.
Acting Pentagon Inspector General Thomas Gimbel says that was one of several instances where Feith's policy office presented views about Iraq and al-Qaeda to senior White House officials that clashed with the consensus of the intelligence community. Gimbel's report says Feith's office acted inappropriately because it sometimes pushed intelligence that hadn't been vetted properly and didn't make decision makers aware that others questioned its reliability.
You better be prepared to put your alternative view through the same type of rigor and scrutiny as everybody else is if you're going to end up doing something about it. If you shop it behind the lines, if you do it behind the curtain, if you do it around the end, you're not making the best use of the intelligence community.
But Gimbel's report says Feith's office did not do anything illegal, and Feith defends his actions.
It's not the job of policymakers to explain what the intelligence is and then explain how they're varying from it. Our people were simply saying, we're uncomfortable with what the CIA was doing.
Reaction at the White House was more broad. One official simply saying that the president has maintained for a long time that the intelligence leading up to the war was inaccurate, and he's taken action, like setting up the Office of the National Intelligence Director to make sure it doesn't happen again. Brian Todd, CNN, Washington.
A militant group in Iraq is showing a video on the internet which it claims is the shooting down of a US helicopter. The group, called the Islamic State in Iraq, says this is the chopper that crashed on Wednesday in Anbar province. However, an official with the US Joint Chiefs of Staff said the initial indication of the cause of the crash was mechanical failure. The same group recently claimed responsibility for shooting down another helicopter near Fallujah. The New York Times is reporting today that US officials believe Iran is behind the supply of the deadliest roadside bombs in Iraq. According to the Times story, evidence of Iranian involvement in Iraqi Shia attacks against American troops is nearly, though not completely, conclusive. In particular, a bomb device called an explosively formed penetrator, or EFP, which produces more casualties per attack and can typically penetrate an armoured Humvee. It's thought to be beyond Iraqi bomb-building capabilities and is believed to be coming from Iran in key parts, if not in whole. Speaking to reporters on Friday, U.S. Secretary of Defense Robert Gates had this comment.
The sophistication of the technology, I think that there are some serial numbers. There may be some markings on some of the projectile fragments that we found. I'm just frankly not specifically certain myself of the details, but I understand there is pretty good evidence tying these EFPs to the Iranians.
Iran has publicly denied allegations of providing military support to Shia militants in Iraq. 6 men are charged in Britain on terrorism charges. 5 of them appeared in a London courtroom on Friday. The 6th is set to appear on Saturday. International security correspondent Paula Newton reports.
Amid heavy security and intense scrutiny, 6 terror suspects were charged in connection with an alleged terror plot that strikes at the very heart of Britain's Muslim community. As the convoy carrying 5 of the 6 suspects made its way to a London courtroom, prosecutors began spelling out the charges, and it was the detail that made the difference.
One has been charged with an offence of engaging in conduct to give effect to his intention to kidnap and kill a member of the armed forces.
The details of the charge, kidnap and murder of a soldier, confirms the community's worst fears in Birmingham, that police believe the alleged plot involved targeting a British veteran, one of their own. 36-year-old Parvez Khan faces the most serious charges, plotting to kidnap and kill. He is also charged with attempting to supply equipment, money, or property for use in terrorism. His alleged accomplices, 43-year-old Hamid Ilismar, 29-year-old Zahoor Iqbal, 30-year-old Mohammed Irfan, and 31-year-old Amjad Mahmoud, all are charged with attempting to supply equipment, money, or property for use in terrorism. A 6th man was later charged with failing to disclose information about a possible terrorist act. And police made it clear more arrests and charges are still possible. They say this investigation is far from over.
To date, we have seized over 4,500 exhibits, which includes computers, mobile phones and many documents. Many of these have yet to be examined, and it's going to require many hours of analysis. This has been a very significant operation for us.
During their court appearance, looking tired but composed, the defendants were remanded into custody. But near the end of proceedings, one suspect was reduced to tears. All could face life sentences if convicted. Police say they are still sifting through a mountain of evidence, and more chilling details of the alleged plot seem to be revealed by the hour.
It is vital that we do not fail to acknowledge the stark reality of what was being planned in our midst. We now have a vital task in working to ensure that we do everything we can to ensure that this type of criminality does not take place.
A trial is still months away, and that means most of the evidence won't be disclosed for some time. And that means there will be no answers yet to those unnerving questions. Just how close were they to executing this alleged plot, and do they have any links to Al-Qaeda? Paula Newton, CNN, London.
And coming up later on CNN, Christian Amanpour examines homegrown Muslim extremism in the UK in the war within. That's in a little less than an hour from now. More than 100 people have registered to run for President of the United States. Out of that number, maybe a dozen have a real chance. One of those possible presidents is a black senator from the state of Illinois. His name is Barack Obama, and Candy Crowley has his story.
He streaked into the political atmosphere like a meteor, fiery, dazzling.
We worship an awesome God in the blue states, and we don't like federal agents poking around in our libraries in the red states. We coach Little League in the blue states, and yes, we've got some gay friends in the red states.
Emil Jones, Barack Obama's friend and mentor, says the night before that convention speech, Jones was mistaken for an Alabama delegate because someone misread his Obama campaign button.
After he gave that brilliant speech, the delegates at that convention were all over those persons from Illinois trying to get an Obama button.
Name recognition is part of the troika of musts in presidential politics, along with the ability to raise money and a story to tell.
It's a pretty good picture of me, don't you think?
He has one. Born in Hawaii, son of a white woman from Kansas and a black man from Kenya, Obama writes in his autobiography of struggling with his identity as a teenager. Pot had helped, he wrote, and booze, maybe a little blow when you could afford it. He wrote that 11 years ago. It may hurt or not.
Do I know of any skeletons now that are going to be problems? I don't think so, because he's immunized himself. He's immunized himself by writing a book about all the naughty things when he was young and naughty.
He got it together. Columbia, Harvard Law, professor, community organizer, Illinois State Senator, U.S. Senator.
The time for waiting in Iraq is over.
He opposes the war in Iraq and favors the Bush-backed immigration bill. He's against same-sex marriage but supports civil unions. He favors universal health care.
I've known Barack for 20 years, and I'm not sure that I know whether he's a liberal or conservative. I really think sometimes it depends on the issue.
Republicans describe Obama as a pragmatic left-of-center politician who works both sides of the aisle to get things done, sunup past sundown.
Senator Obama had the social skills that helped him as a legislator. In Springfield, he played basketball, he played poker with a number of legislators from downstate Illinois after hours. He would have an occasional drink. He would smoke a cigarette, bum a cigarette from legislators.
He spent 8 years in state politics, the last 2 in national politics. It is, in the end, the biggest question on the Barack Obama bandwagon. Is that enough to be leader of the Western world?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Candy Crowley, CNN, Springfield, Illinois.
And Obama faces one of the great American political questions in this pending presidential contest, whether a black candidate can mount an effective mainstream campaign and win the job. For him, though, he says the answer is less about his race and more about his personal vision. He said in a recent interview that his race is not an obstacle to getting elected. He added, "I think if I don't win this race, it will be because of other factors. It's going to be because I haven't shown the American people a vision for where the country needs to go that they can embrace." Her unexpected death is causing headlines around the world. Coming up on World News, the investigation into what could have killed U.S. celebrity Anna Nicole Smith and the growing custody battle over her infant daughter. And what will it take to stop the violence at football games? Jonathan Mann has some history and some answers when we come back.
Every day, decisions and actions shape our world. Stability one day becomes uncertainty the next. And as surely as time moves forward, so does our need to stay ahead of it. Click on CNN.com International for global breaking news, in-depth special reports, and a world of interactive possibilities. Be the first to know.
Distinctive journalism.
The last time Nazira saw her son, they were being marched off with their hands tied behind their backs.
Brings clarity to complicated issues.
Many of those who do end up here seldom make it alive.
With clarity comes understanding.
Allah Abbas is a walking target, such is life in a world of suicide bombings.
And from understanding comes knowledge. CNN, distinctive journalism, getting to the heart of the story.